and welcome to our April Board of Education public meeting. We appreciate how many people are here. Thank you all for coming. And we have a very full agenda, so I am beginning as close to on time as we can begin. The first item that we will do is to call roll. Ms. Wood?
Mr. Clausen?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
Schwartz?
Here.
Ms. Upchurch?
Here. The Board of Education maintains a web page at www.lewispalmer.org through which members of the public can find live streaming information and meeting records, including the presentations and resources which may be reviewed and discussed during this meeting. Our next item is that we actually have a special, normally we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we have the pleasure of hearing Miss Hadley Miles from Lewis Palmer Middle School. She is in 8th grade and in the choir there. She was a participant in the Kiwanis Stars of Tomorrow program, and we are very fortunate to have Hadley here, who is going to sing the national anthem for us. So please rise, because we will hear the national anthem, and we will immediately follow with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
We'll continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very, very much, Ms. Miles. With that, we have the administration of the oath of office. We have our new appointee, Mr. Chris Norris, here. So, Mr. Norris, would you meet me at the microphone ahead? I, Chris Norris,
I, Chris Norris,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully perform the duties
that I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of school director
of the office of school director
as required by law
as required by law
and will support
the
Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the laws made pursuant thereto.
and the laws made pursuant thereto.
Congratulations. We welcome you to the P38.
Thank you.
With like to invite Lauren Norris up for a photo opportunity. This is Mr. Norris's wife. They also have 2 daughters that live in the area. Unfortunately, both of them are ill tonight, so we will acknowledge them at a future meeting.
Thank you.
I think we have to avoid the microphone because I'm about as tall as it.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep. So at this time, Mr. Norris is signing an affidavit of confidentiality, which every board member signs at the time that they are sworn in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Welcome aboard, sir. Solemnly affirm that the information contained here is true.
I do solemnly affirm.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. And now that we are a sitting board of 5, I want to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Ms. Wood?
Clausen,
Aye.
Mr. Norris,
Aye.
Ms. Phillips,
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz, Ms. Upchurch.
Aye.
At this time, because we are bringing on an additional board member, and Mr. Taylor on February 21st vacated the seat of president, we are, per Colorado statute CRS 22-32-104, 3 and 4, and board policy BDA, board organizational meeting, a nomination and approval process for president of the Board of Education will be conducted, followed by nomination and approval of vice president, secretary, and treasurer as necessary. At this time, I would like to ask for nominations for the office of board president. The floor is open to multiple nominations at this time.
I would like to nominate Ms. Tiffany Upchurch.
Super. I would also like to nominate at this time Mr. Ron Schwartz. Are there any other nominees? Given that, since there are multiple nominations, Ms. Wood, will you please distribute ballots? There are nominations on the floor for Ms. Tiffany Upchurch and Mr. Ron Schwartz as board president. Please write the name of one of these nominees on your ballot as your choice.
How many times would you like me to fold it? Thank you, Ms. Wood.
You have them all. The new president for the Board of Education is Ms. Tiffany Upchurch. At this time, you will take over the meeting, Ms. Upchurch. Congratulations.
Thank you. So at this time, we will now open the floor for nominations for the office of Board of Vice President. And the floor is now open for nominations.
I would like to nominate Mr. Ron Schwartz.
Mr. Ron Schwartz is placed into nomination. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none,
I have a comment. While I appreciate the opportunity, I don't think my skill sets map well to that role. And so I'd like to remove my name from that in the spirit of doing what's best for the district and the kids. I think there's other places where I can certainly make a better contribution than that. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to nominate Mr. Chris Norris.
are there any other nominations for Vice President of the Board? Seeing none, we'll declare the call for nominations to close and there is a nomination on the floor for Mr. Chris Norris as Board Vice President. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Chris Norris as the Vice President of the Board of Education of District 38 located in Monument, Colorado.
I second.
Ms. Wood, would you call roll?
Mr. Clausen,
Aye.
Mr. Norris,
Aye.
Ms. Phillips,
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Norris.
Thank you.
At this time, I will ask if there anybody that would like to volunteer for Secretary of the Board and Treasurer of the Board.
I'd like to volunteer for Secretary of the Board.
I'd be happy to remain as treasurer.
Any other?
You know, Ms. Upchurch, I would be more than happy to serve in any capacity you would like me to, but with that being said, I'm very content with the member-at-large position.
With that, I would like to enter a nomination and a motion to accept Ms. Teresa Phillips as the Board Secretary and Mr. Ron Schwartz as the Board Treasurer and Mr. Matt Clausen as the Member-at-Large, and also, in addition to, Assistant Secretary Ms. Wood and Assistant Treasurer Mr. Brett Wedgeway.
Actually, Ms. Upchurch, just as a note of procedure, those all can be made as appointments. They do not require a motion, nor do they require a vote. So you have the ability in your new role to be able to just make that formal appointment based on what you just said.
Well, I appreciate that. I would also, but I would still like the approval of the board.
That's fair. So are you asking for a motion
Yes,
then?
I'm asking for a motion.
I'll second that motion, Ms. Upchurch.
Ms. Wood, would you do roll call?
Mr. Clausen,
Aye.
Mr. Norris,
Aye.
Ms. Phillips,
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz,
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. Congratulations all. And with that, we will move on to agenda item C, Stars of Tomorrow recognition with Kiwanis. Richard Strom, our program manager for Stars of Tomorrow, and members of the Monument Hills Kiwanis Club, we would like to highlight you and recognize your recent talent show. And the Stars of Tomorrow, for everybody who doesn't know, performance competition was held at the Palmer Ridge High School Auditorium on March 19th, 2023, with a substantial amount of prize monies being awarded to the Lewis Palmer School District 38 students. Student prize winners will be introduced for special recognition. Would you like to introduce those, sir, or would you like me to do that?
Oh, you can go right ahead.
All right. So our student prize winners were, and if I mess up your name, I sincerely apologize. Rose Magdalene Helgoth, elementary division from St. Peter Catholic School, 4th grade, a songwriter of Who Will Buy by Lionel Bart from Oliver. Are you here? Come on forward. Eric Lambrick from Lewis Palmer Elementary School, 6th grade, piano. He did a piano sonata number 20, first movement from Beethoven. Raleigh Eversole, Palmer Ridge High School, 12th grade, solo bassoonist and concerto in F movement 1. Carl Maria von Weber. Wyatt Hayden from Palmer Ridge High School, 11th grade, electric guitar solo medley. He did Van Halen, Chuck Berry, Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, which was arranged by Wyatt Hayden, yourself. And Rose, Eric, and Raleigh were the winners of each of their divisions. Wyatt was the grand prize winner. So congratulations. Mr. Strom, would you like to say anything on behalf of Kiwanis?
Well, we got a slide we got a slideshow coming up, but we're going to start with a video. It's going to give you a taste of what the show was like. It's not a very long video, and so we'll start with that.
Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome you to the first ever Monument Hill Kiwanis Club Stars of Tomorrow Talent Show.
That's Rose. That's Eric.
Inside the mountains, I'll sit fire. Would you hold my hand? We're far from the shallow now. Whoa, whoa. I don't want to show off no more. I don't want to seem too no more. Like a movie that I saw last week, I wished upon a shooting star with all my heart.
And you ain't never gonna change. You got a gypsy soul to blame. You were born for living.
About it, oh, 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 oh.
That's Wyatt.
I remember the time I knew what happiness was. Dead at night, take these broken wings and learn to fly.
There's Raleigh.
To Rose Helga.
Is Eric Lambrek.
Is Raleigh Eversole.
The winner is Wyatt Hayden.
Thank you. Lewis Palmer School District 38 has enjoyed a very strong partnership with the Monument Hills Kiwanis Club for many, many years. And the school district is extremely grateful for the many fundraising efforts and leadership experiences and service opportunities for that the Kiwanis provides to D38 and its families. So thank you so very much.
Well, I've got a short PowerPoint, if I'd like to present
Absolutely.
that now. So, members of the school board and Superintendent Summers, it's our pleasure to be here this evening because we want to show you a new endeavor that the Kiwanis Club has started called Stars of Tomorrow. One of the things that we've discovered is that the athletic department and the kids who are in athletics and academics, they tend to get a lot of attention. And so we thought it'd be great to bring a talent show to the area to showcase the talent in this area. And as you can see, the talent is simply amazing, and it was really tough for the judges to decide who the winners were. So go to the next slide. So what is Stars of Tomorrow? It's a talent show, and it's an opportunity for Performing arts students to perform before an audience and judges, gain practical experience, receive feedback on their performance, and hone their skills. The competitive divisions are elementary, middle, and high school, and those are the grades. They don't match up exactly with the schools, but we did this to recognize the different maturity levels at those ages. And what talents were accepted? Well, there's a list of what talents were accepted, and we didn't accept any air guitars or lip syncing. Who's eligible to compete? Performing arts students attending the D38 schools or living within the D38 boundaries. Students were measured against standards commonly used by the performing arts. Students must meet the application deadline. And auditions were held. 53 applications were received, and students were judged on talent, technique, artistry, presentation, stage presence, among other things. Judges for the auditions were local folks who had music and dance background. For the show, we had professionals in music and the dance area. The show was conducted at Palmer Ridge High School. 20 acts were selected to perform. Acts included solo performances, performances with accompanists, a rock band, and a dance group. And I have some programs if anybody's interested to see those. I'll be happy to give those out after the presentation. I gave copies to the board. And here were the winners. And they were introduced already, but here's their names and their schools that they're in. Do you, anybody from the winners, have any want to make any comments? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't tell you that you were going to do this, but if you'd like to say something, okay, that's okay. I understand. All right. So the results were really great. Everybody seemed to be having a wonderful time. The performers had an opportunity to perform in front of a live audience, and that was the reward for those who didn't make it as winners. And we had about 400 people in the audience, which was about twice of what I expected. Scott said he thought it'd be about 400. But it was really great to have that many people in there supporting those kids. Here's some testimonials. Enjoyed playing in front of a crowd. Thank you for all the hard work. We're so blessed to have this monument. Honestly, I'm so inspired by the stars, and thanks for hosting the talent show and giving our kids a chance to perform. And some thank yous. We, as Tiffany said, we have been in partnership with the school district for a long time, and Adam Frank at Palmer Ridge was great. He comped the auditorium for us. We still paid for the custodial support and for the technicians, performing arts teachers. We interviewed those all before we did this to make sure we had buy-in from them. Butch Eversole, the Palmer Ridge Director of Bands and Academic Chair for the Arts Department, helped us with the sound technicians. Josh Belk, Palmer Ridge Theater teacher, helped us with lighting technicians and book text. It's a ticketing company that helped us with our ticketing. And Carrie Hendricks, Communications and Media Arts Department at Lewis Palmer, designed the program, and Eric Wall at Palmer Ridge Facility. He's a facility manager, and his staff are wonderful. So, in conclusion, we can't thank D38 enough, and we've had a wonderful partnership with you all over the years. And not only Stars of Tomorrow, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew that we don't, not only Stars of Tomorrow, but we have this really strong service leadership program in the community, in the schools, run by Max Williams over here, and the K-Kids in the elementary school, the Builders Club in the middle school, and Key Clubs, high school. But we get the use of this facility on Saturdays for our Saturday morning meetings. We get the use of Lewis Palmer High School for Empty Bowls, which supports Tri-Lakes Cares, and we have a Kiwanis Craft Fair at Grace Best, thanks to D38, and we do a Harvest of Love with all the schools in the school district. It's a big food drive for Tri-Lakes Cares. So, and I neglected to introduce our president, Greg Belinsky, before the meeting, and our incoming president, Scott Ross. So that's it from me. Anybody have any questions? We hope to do this again next year and hope to make this bigger. every year. So thanks very much for listening to me, and have a great evening. The photo up. Come on up here, Greg. Mr. President. Scott.
Kids, you want to come up?
Yeah, go. Good idea.
At this time, we will move on to item 2C2, public comments. In accordance with policy BEDH, the board will hear comments from members of the public who have signed up to speak. It is our goal as a board to continuously listen and improve, and we invite members of our community to speak publicly for a total of 30 minutes. Speakers will be allotted up to 3 minutes each, and time may be divided equally if more than 10 individuals wish to speak. Groups with a united concern may be asked to appoint a spokesperson. The Board of Education does not expressly or individually respond to public comments, and to this point, comments expressed do not represent the position or opinion of the Board of Education of D38. Finally, we ask that you keep your comments shared, that you share appropriate for our PK-12 audience and respectful at all times. Should you have any issues with a staff member that you would like to address or have addressed, please consider sharing these criticisms and concerns with the superintendent, who is responsible for supervising all staff and involving the board as necessary. At this time, we'll just go in order. Andrea Weidman is our first speaker from Lewis Palmer Middle School.
Hello. Good evening, D38 Board of Education and Dr. Summers. My name is Andrea Weidman, and I am the current teacher librarian at Lewis Palmer Middle School. Over the course of the past few days, I was distressed to learn that D38 is planning to eliminate the certified teacher librarian position at Lewis Palmer High School for the upcoming school year, and reassign the current teacher librarian to a teaching position at Kilmer Elementary. Libraries are one of the few places in a school building that are designed to serve and meet the needs of all students and staff members. And while our primary responsibility is to help students access materials that foster a development of a lifelong love of reading, which research shows has countless academic and personal benefits for students. We also oversee textbook distribution for all subject areas, instruct students on proper research and current citation practices, cultivate areas that are true safe spaces for students to gather, study, and talk. We help ensure equitable access to materials by partnering with ELL and SPED personnel. We serve as instructional coaches for teachers. We help students and staff with various technology-related needs. And on top of all that, we also maintain, troubleshoot, and distribute the district's Chromebooks fleet to students. A study from the National Center of Education Statistics and the National Assessment of Educational Progress shows that the presence of a certified teacher librarian in schools directly correlated in higher test scores and graduation rates, even after controlling for factors like school size and poverty. And the benefits associated with good library programs are strongest for the most vulnerable and at-risk students, including students of color, low-income students, and students with disabilities. While my obvious passion for the importance of school libraries may yield some bias, I hope that it does not cloud the countless research studies that have been compiled over the past few years that highlight the importance of school library programs and how they, when helmed by a certified teacher librarian, yield countless benefits for the students and staff members they serve. As a part of the D38 team for more than 7 years, 5 of which were served as a classroom teacher, it pains me to think that this decision is being made rapidly and without consideration of the negative and lasting impacts this decision could have on the students and staff of Lewis Palmer High School and the desirability of D38 as a school district of choice for our families. If we are truly dedicated to meeting the needs of every student every day, then we need to consider how the potential loss of a crucial school space, one available to all students, may impact not only Lewis Palmer High School, but the district as a whole. I also worry about what sort of message this elimination of a position sends to our remaining school library staff and our teaching staff. If we are truly committed to building a culture that cultivates and uplifts staff members, what are we telling our staff and community when a dedicated teacher of 18 years is suddenly reassigned because their position is being eliminated? It is my hope in speaking here tonight that you as the board recognize the importance of school libraries in D38, especially during School Library Month, and reconsider the elimination of the certified teacher library position at Lewis Palmer High School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Weidman. Danae Child from Lewis Palmer High School.
Good evening, D38 Board of Education members and Dr. Summers. I am the current certified teacher librarian at Lewis Palmer High School. I have been the librarian for 18 years. My passion is the library and the students and staff that I serve. My position is being eliminated and I am being transferred to an elementary classroom. Lewis Palmer School District prides itself on being a district of academic excellence. Yet a site decision was made to eliminate the certified teacher librarian position. This will have lasting repercussions on our students and staff. How are we honoring our district commitment of every student every day when we don't offer the necessary resources students need to be lifelong learners? Lewis Palmer High School will be left behind Lewis Palmer Middle School and Palmer Ridge High School, who will both still have librarians who prepare students for college readiness, encourage reading, and foster lasting relationship. Librarians are experts in information literacy, which help guide students to accurate, objective, and engaging information. The internet might have information, but it cannot provide the warmth of in-person connection. According to the National Center of Education Statistics and National Assessment of Educational Progress, having a teacher librarian in the schools results in students having better reading and writing and higher graduation rates. Lewis Palmer School District needs to be supporting strong library programs to ensure our students are getting the best educational support. Since the district is having a hard time attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers, why are they allowing the elimination and transferring of veteran teachers who have dedicated their teaching career to D38? D38 should be taking care of teachers who have withstood the failed MLOs, salary freezes, and COVID. Those who, through all of this, have shown devotion and longevity to the district. Teachers should be able to stay in their positions of expertise. I urge the board to reconsider the elimination of the certified teacher librarian at Lewis Palmer High School and to find the resources necessary to keep this important position. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Danae. Stephanie Markle, Palmer Ridge High School.
Right. There's so much to say, but strong and sound leadership is needed more than ever. Tiffany, thank you so much for your comments at the last board session and for all of you for all of your time and effort. This is a very hard and thankless job. However, I ask that you take on this hard task again, Teresa and Ron, and run for school board again this fall to ensure that all students, staff, and community members that are a part of D38 are heard, protected, and valued. Thank you.
And finally, our fourth speaker is Jenna Baker, resident, former student.
Okay, I will be talking about some sensitive topics, so if there's anyone like under the age of 13 or anyone who's triggered by sexual assault, if you like need time to feel free to step out. Yeah, can we reset my time?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. Okay.
Ma'am, would you pause for a second, please?
Yeah.
By the students.
And I think there should probably be a disclaimer on the YouTube that there might be graphic content or discussion.
Yes.
And anyone that has minor children should, at this point, turn off that link. Would you concur with that assessment, ma'am?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen.
Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Jenna Baker, and for those who don't know, I organized the petition calling for the serial rapist Deuce Robertson, a former PR student, to be held accountable at a collegiate level after D38 failed to give him consequences for his behavior, despite being fully aware of it for the 4 years he attended Palmer Ridge High School from 2016 to 2018. I hate to be the person to criticize a district I loved with all my heart, but someone needs to speak up. I certainly don't take pleasure in doing this. I have sacrificed my mental health and physical safety, putting my reputation on the stake for the sake of amplifying more voices and holding people accountable in a situation that has evaded appropriate consequences for years. For anyone who wants to see the documents I obtained through an open records request and also the specific systemic failures that blatantly expose D38's strategic deceit of the community and disregard for sexual assault cases, including ones ongoing in the district right now, please find me after this meeting and I would be happy to provide you with the documents. I care about this so much because I have no doubt in my mind that D38 leadership is still continuing to enable behaviors of sexual assault, with Mr. Rick Frampton admitting there are disturbingly high numbers of sexual assault reports in the district this year, and is putting thousands of young girls and boys at risk because they can't own up to their past failures because they're too cowardly to assume both the legal and moral liability. The official estimate for girls who will face sexual harassment in their lives ranges from 1 in 3 to 1 in 5. So why is it that I cannot think of a single girl, not even one, in my graduating class who didn't experience sexual harassment, especially online, in Monument before they reached adulthood, when they should have been worrying about homework rather than therapy and trauma interfering with their daily lives? There are high school health curriculums supposedly including consent in education. In my experience, which is consistent with anyone I've talked to at PR, consent was never mentioned. People like PR's principal, Dr. Adam Frank, won't even consider teaching consent because it's too controversial in his own words. Is it controversial that I was sexually assaulted at 15 years old by another PR student and still suffer from PTSD to this day, despite the fact that PR was made aware of the student and at least 5 other sexual predators at large in the school district in 2022, and no consequences were ever implemented, telling my parents the same thing they always tell victims, that it's my word against his. Victims should feel empowered and heard and should not be encouraged to seek justice, not automatically dismissed as a hopeless casualty of an unjust system. I ask the community, is it controversial that Robertson's behavior affected and still affects dozens of girls and their families, and nothing ever happened with him despite at least 14 victims going to admin, Gary Gable acknowledging he was a threat to other staff, the NCAA being contacted, and other football players literally begging to remove Deuce from the team? Is it controversial that he was allowed inside PR in a building with minors this January to speak with old coaches despite the security officers questioning if this was even allowed? Is it acceptable that admin directly discouraged students from reporting to law enforcement, leave it up to victims to decide if they want to press charges when they are supposed to be the ones protected by adults, which continues to enable the abusers to hurt other students, and fail to follow through with district investigations or mandated reporting over and over again? But God forbid we teach students that their body belongs to them and that consent is more than not saying no. That would simply be too controversial.
At this time, thank you all for all of your comments. At this time, we will move on to board member comments. And we will start with the way we usually do, which, Mr. Norris, since you're first and at the end of the table, and this is your first board meeting, guess what? I'm going to put you on the spot.
I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to the job, to the task, and I'm excited.
Mr. Clausen?
Thank you, Ms. Upchurch. I've been on the board for nearly 8 years, and I think we are in the best position as a board with a strategic plan, with administration, than we've ever been. My compass is, since I've been on the school board, is always to do what's best for the kids. I know some of you may not necessarily agree, but I always try to do what's best for the kids. In November 7th to be exact, is going to be another election, and we will have 4 board seats open for re-election or election. First time this has happened since I've been on the school board, and quite frankly, I'm a little nervous about it. Ms. Upchurch will be the only member of the board that will not be up for re-election. I want to thank Ms. Phillips for the incredible job that she has done as the vice president and the interim president. I've expressed to her she has my support moving forward. Whatever I could do to help her with her re-election, I am committed. She is a valuable asset to this board, and she has my 100% support. Mr. Schwartz, too, will be up for re-election. I, too, support Mr. Schwartz 100%, and I will assist him in whatever capacity I can for him to become re-elected. Ms. Upchurch has been on this board a long time, and as many of you have seen, she is a natural leader, and I think she will do an incredible job in this capacity. And Mr. Norris, sorry to nominate you as the vice president, but I'm sure you will do an incredible job. And I also want to thank Dr. Summers for the leadership that he provides. This is a district that has a lot of great attributes, but we still have not been able to get over the hurdle of paying our teachers and team members what they deserve. So please continue to be patient with us. We are trying. Teacher compensation and team compensation continues to be an ongoing topic. And if there's other ways that we have not thought about, please send me an email. We are committed to do the best job that we can with the limited resources. And if the opportunity presents itself for us to revisit funding for the community at another time, I would support that, as I have in the previous elections. So teachers and team members, once again, thank you so much for the wonderful job you do, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen. Mr. Schwartz?
Yeah, well said, Mr. Clausen. Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
Looking forward to having you here. And Teresa, thanks for all you've done to keep the ball moving forward. And Tiffany, best to you moving the ball forward at the pace and the achievements that the board's been able to do so far. And hopefully we'll continue it and keep the pace up. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Phillips?
I think I've spoken enough the last 8 weeks, so I have no comments.
Well, as usual, I have a gift for Gab and plenty to say. First, I want to say welcome to your first board meeting, Mr. Norris, and also congratulations to your beautiful wife, Lauren. Anytime we have a new board member, it means we have a new board, of which we go through transitions, but I am confident that we will all stay focused on the good work we have before us and stay true to our priorities and commitments to our students and our staff and our community. There's a saying by Helen Keller that says, alone we can do so little, and together we can do so much. So I'm looking forward to the continued work that we will do together. Second, I do want to say thank you to all of your public comments. And as stated last month, this month, April, is National Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. And sexual violence affects all people, regardless of our geography, our race, our age, our ethnicity, our gender, or our religion. And tens of millions of Americans, our families, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, our classmates, ourselves, we carry the trauma of sexual assault with us. And freedom from sexual assault is indeed a basic human right. And I still stand by what I said last month. I stand with the courageous survivors. You ladies are not alone. And we as a society must help our survivors access safety, justice, and healing, and we must keep fighting to make it clear how important consent is and how sexual assault can be a crime. I, along with my fellow board member, Ms. Phillips, and several other community friends, attended the last of the three-part series of the Powerful Parent Safety Academy on April 3rd, in which we discussed consent, and I think that's a great start, and I think we need to keep going. And all three of the events, which Dr. Summers I know will touch on later, have been all well attended. So I want to thank you to all of our families and all of our community for engaging and being interested and working through this, and I also want to say thank you to the experts on the panel. April is also Autism Awareness Month, and it's Autism Acceptance Month. And as a parent, I see almost every day how misunderstood our neurodiverse students are, and I want to thank our team of educators who make a difference in their lives, and the parents who stand by their kids as well, so thank you. And speaking of, next Wednesday, which is the 26th of April, in the Palmer Ridge High School auditorium, we will be honoring our educators, our students, and our community members who make a difference in the lives of our differently abled students at the Aliorum Day Awards. Please come and be inspired. It's a good reminder of how the power of good people in our community can indeed make an impact. And then finally, I want to say that as we round the corner to the end of the year, I would like to invite everyone in our community to reach out to an educator and to your schools. The first week of May is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, and as I've attended the various PTOs and accountability committees in our school district, it is impressive to witness all the good work that our schools are doing to fundraise for our educators and for their schools and for their students. And I am sure that our students and our staff and our families and our parents and our schools would welcome any support. So thank you so much, and that's all I have to say. And I will turn it over to Dr. Summers.
Thank you, Ms. Upchurch. And thank you to our new board. Looking forward to continuing good work that's in front of us and maintaining our focus on what's most important. Before I begin my update this evening, I'm actually going to read a written, what I'm calling a reflection statement. While D38 does not expressly or directly respond to public comment, I want to take a moment tonight to share some recent reflections relating to sensitive issues that have been brought forward over the last several weeks and were brought to light again this evening. My hope and goal in sharing this message is to ensure that our community understands our current position on how we work to address sensitive issues directly related to the safety, health, and wellness of all of our students, as well as an understanding of our active commitment to students, families, and our entire community. On behalf of all D38 employees, we stand wholeheartedly opposed to all forms of misconduct, including misconduct of a sexual nature. We take all reports of student and potentially staff misconduct seriously. And within these reports, we are responsible to uphold all relevant federal and state laws, as well as any district policies. In addition to spelling out investigative responsibilities, our policies are designed to ensure that all students can file any report without fear of retaliation, retribution, or shaming. I also speak tonight not just as a district administrator and an educator, but as a father and a human, when I say that we will work to show the utmost respect, care, and concern for any young person who has experienced trauma, and we will always do whatever we can to support them as best we possibly can. We are all here in this together, and it's our collective role and responsibility to speak up for what is right, as well as address issues when there are wrongs. To this end, I commend any former student, as well as any of our current students, for standing up and confidently advocating for what is right. Essential in this process is how we work to cultivate safe spaces for crucial conversations with both our students and our families, and how we also actively partner with and involve law enforcement when appropriate in a disciplinary process for those who violate policies and laws. Equally essential is how we go about educating our students and families on issues related to consent, responsible use of social media, and the ways in which misconduct can be reported to school officials, as well as how school officials are trained to act on these reports. Following the third in a series of powerful parent safety academies that was launched this year, we met in this very room back on April 3rd to provide education and awareness on serious issues related to consent. And if you're interested in that recording, it is on our district website. In addition to our Safety Academy, the district is committed to convening a district-wide safety task force in partnership with our community, which will address how student safety concerns and reports will continue to be addressed in our district, consistent with policy, and as part of an ongoing effort to promote, again, a safe, healthy, and welcoming school environment for all. We also understand any frustration over being unable to legally share details about past disciplinary matters. While we are committed to transparency, we must also follow state and federal privacy law, including FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, in all situations. Additionally, D38 does follow all rules around the Colorado Open Records Act, which abides by those same privacy rules. District administrators and our Board of Education continually strive together to construct and improve policies that prioritize safety and provide the most welcoming environment for all of our students. We have full confidence in our current leadership team as they work in tandem to this end. If you have specific feedback, especially any suggested changes to district policy or other improvements therein, we encourage you to share it with us at any time. In closing, I want to thank all of you, and please continue to confidently partner with us as we work to continuously learn and improve on behalf of every student every day. And with that, we will now go into the PowerPoint version of the update. So, as we've come prone to remind and reflect upon, we have our vision, our mission, strategic plan, and our values that guide our actions, our decisions, and the important work that we do. We're going to start with some celebrations and kudos for some staff members as you see listed here. So I'm just going to read these briefly. Molly Ketchell, thanks for thinking of our district and especially Bear Creek by recruiting and sending excellent candidates our way. We wish we had a finder fee to share with you. John Hudson, thank you for always working hard and having a great relationship with our LPHS students. Ivella Gillette, also known as Mama Bear, has been the glue of Palmer Ridge High School since it opened and continues to positively impact Palmer Ridge on a daily basis, and she will be greatly missed in her retirement. Butch Eversole, what Butch has created at Palmer Ridge High School in the band program over the past decade plus is phenomenal. He is a humble, dedicated employee who is beloved by his students and colleagues, and will also be greatly missed in retirement. Teresa Kulo for the amazing slideshow she put together to celebrate both World Storytelling Day and all Bear Creek Reads. It was a great way for staff and students to showcase their heritage, along with a favorite book. And Danny DeBellis and Jamie Zulsdorf for the innovation and excitement you bring to kindergartners, specifically at Lewis Palmer Elementary School every day. So big kudos and shout out to those deserving staff members. You may not quite yet be aware, because I was not, but we were at a recent event at the state level, and I have in my hands, but you see a copy on the screen, a proclamation with a signature from our governor, who is thanking all of the educators across the state of Colorado for creating the space to take care of all of our students. And the state proclamation officially marks April as Elevate Educators Month. I think they maybe borrowed our Elevate theme. But we are honoring our educators as we typically do, as well as all of our staff members, the first week. Actually, it'll end up being the second week of May, officially May 8th. So we look forward to those opportunities to celebrate and acknowledge and recognize our staff. And if you're interested in seeing the proclamation officially signed by Governor Polis, it's here for you to reference. So moving on, we have several accolades and achievements that we just want to further elevate and celebrate. the Lewis Palmer High School Science Olympiad team is celebrating taking 7th in our state competition following a fierce showing. We had students that competed by taking written tests, performing labs, and demonstrating physical builds to earn this prestigious spot. So 5 teams took top placements with 1 first place ranking, which included the chemistry lab by Ashley Meggett and Ellie Flynn. Congratulations to them. Palmer Ridge High School Performing Arts Hall of Fame. So we have a volunteer support network that has helped create the Performing Arts Hall of Fame for Palmer Ridge High School, which will honor students and others who earn all-state recognition, among others. And not a surprise here, but Mr. Butch Eversole was recognized for his tremendous career as band director by having the wall named after him. And we just want to give a shout out to one of our parents, Wendy Ladow, for taking the lead in this awesome initiative. As I mentioned a few slides back, the Bear Creek Elementary School Reads event celebrated a love of reading, which welcomed in local authors and reading experts from the Pikes Peak Library District. And we want to thank our D38 employee and author, Rachel Hetrick, and local author Heidi Colin for sharing their storytelling methods with our students. And our students were engaged and buzzing with excitement. Palmer Lake Elementary School welcomes our local meteorologist, so we want to thank KOAA and meteorologist Alex O'Brien for spending some time over at Palmer Lake, and more buzzing as they learned about the science of meteorology as well as how to stay safe during extreme weather. As alluded to also a bit earlier, we just completed the 3rd of a series of 3 powerful parent safety academies. April 3rd focused on issues relating to consent, as well as a question and answer session regarding Title IX, as well as law enforcement representation. So a big shout out to Amber Newberry, Deputy Chad Wheat, and Mr. Rick Frampton. February 6th, we showcased a partnership that put a spotlight on the presentation relating to online safety, as well as drugs and addiction, featuring our own El Paso District Attorney, Michael Allen. And then if you go all the way back to October 3rd, I know that seems like quite a while ago, but we had our own team of security experts, including Mr. Coates and school resource officers, that gave a great update at that session. So we fully intend on maintaining or continuing these academies going into next year and beyond. And it's really setting the stage for continuous collaboration, learning, and making sure that all of that educates and elevates awareness across all students and families. As you are come to know, as far as our Barebotics season, we had another incredible season, and the wrap-up for the Barebotics team was they made it all the way to the finals in the most recent state championship up at the University of Denver. There was an all-time high membership this year of 55 students and 6 total teams, and of course we look forward to continued growth as we go into next season. And a quick side note here is I think we're scheduling a recognition for either May or June. Probably May. We'll actually host our Barebotics team live and in color here at a board meeting. If you had the chance, last week we held our first district-wide concert in 3 years, but our 25th annual or 25th ever district choir concert celebration. So we had all 8 of our District 38 operated schools participating and performing in the Palmer Ridge High School gym. It was an absolute gem of a concert. Our students did a fabulous job, facilitated by several of our music teachers. So a big shout out to everyone involved there. And we recently hosted the Fox 21 live TV show. I believe it was the actual day before we went into spring break. So Lewis Palmer High School was able to showcase all the great work that's happening over there, including CTE programs and other related events, which actually this is a quick plug because we're going to show you a brief excerpt from that video a little bit later during our safety presentation. But you can watch the whole event on the D38 YouTube channel, which is on LPSD38 Media. And then most recently, last week, we also held a Wildfire Preparedness Day. So big shout out to Lauren Koval and the Palmer Ridge High School Emergency Preparedness Club, which Lauren helped found this year. So they hosted this community event in a preparation effort to look and talk in the community about what do we do in the case of a wildfire. So big thanks again, the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, as well as Monument Fire District and more for making this event possible. Again, this will be ideally an ongoing feature that we're able to accommodate year after year. And then also back to March, we were able to host a Unified and Monument Warriors basketball game. So just a big shout out to all of the students, the athletes, the support athletes, as well as the coaches to make this game special, and another really successful event. The brilliant Battle of the Books in 2023. So we want to congratulate the entire, all of the district's elementary students for competing in now the 37th annual Battle of the Books. So this was first started back in 1987, and this competition has become one of regional interest. So there will be a regional meet on April 27th across all districts that we're also excited to accommodate. You may have also heard that we had 12 athletes that committed to play collegiate sports, and you see those names listed from both Lewis Palmer High School and Palmer Ridge last week, and a few pictures to correspond to that awesome event. So big shout out to those students. This is just a quick plug in regards to our Schneider Electric and energy savings performance contract with Schneider Electric, that the automation work that we have currently happening should expedite over the summer months and will conclude at all sites no later than August, although several sites are actually on a time schedule that's a little bit sooner than that. And so the measurement and verification kickoff will ultimately occur sometime in mid-August through mid-September. And we look forward to sharing a more detailed update because there's quite a bit that goes into this program at our work session on May 2nd. So just a quick plug for that update. Another notice update is that we will be administering the Spring 2023 Student Survey that will go live next week with administration for 2 weeks. This will be the end of the year administration window. As you recall, we did the same survey earlier in the fall. So we will be able to have both the pre and then the post data to compare those results to. We are notifying our families actually today with the ability to opt out, and then we look forward to sharing those results both with the board and the community looking into June. And then just a quick plug for our most recent approach to engage and elevate sessions. These are spring community connection meetings. We opted to go toward more of a coffee shop approach this year. So we have, as you can see, 2 checks from April 6th and April 13th. And then we have upcoming several more events, in fact 2 this week, both at Forge Coffee Lab, Serrano's, and we're trying to hit all of our local coffee shops in the area so that we don't give any preference to any single one. So we hope to certainly see anyone from our community show up at these events, and there will be an opportunity for us to listen very closely to our constituents in that space. That's our goal with these events, is to be power listeners. I also want to make mention of a newly formed task force that we are referring to as a guiding coalition. So in response to the November election and the subsequent Board of Education letter that went out in January of 2023, we have had several individuals reach out and share their desire to partner in developing a future state for D38. So we launched this group in February. This is a grassroots group of community members who has met already several times and is utilizing a research-based approach with the support and facilitation of one of my mentors and a very experienced and world-renowned facilitator. His name is Mr. Bill Martin. So we are working through a process of tackling our biggest challenges for our district. And right now, the focus of this guiding coalition is to facilitate what we're referring to as deep understanding. And what I can share with you is there are already interviews that are taking place within 4 overriding themes. So we have 4 theme teams that it's compiled by different members of this grassroots group. And those 4 themes are rebuilding, strengthening our community trust, defining our community identity, exploring exhausted resources, and inspiring and retaining our educators. And what we'd like to do and what we're currently projecting is sharing a more detailed update at an upcoming June board meeting. So that's something that we just want to highlight for you tonight. Make sure that there's an opportunity. If you are interested in being involved, anyone in the community, the best way to reach out would be to email either myself or Miss Vicki Wood, and we can work to incorporate and accommodate interested and committed individuals in that effort. Tonight's business includes the updates that you see here. So we're going to start with a safe, healthy, and welcoming schools update facilitated by our Executive Director of Student Services, Rick Frampton, and Chief of Security, Dennis Coates. We will be considering and approving or asking for the board's approval for the 23-24 pay schedules and financial updates facilitated by Chief Business Officer Brett Ridgway. We will also be presenting to you a policy and regulation adjustment in the form of GCBA-R as well as IKF, led by Assistant Superintendent Amber Wetstein. And our newest member of our leadership team, Director of Human Resources, Alicia Welch, will provide information regarding the Employee Health Benefits Plan selection for 23-24. So quite a detailed agenda that we have in front of us. And last but not least, we are, I believe, Miss Coveney, come on up, Miss Brittany Coveney. So it is my honor and pleasure to introduce the newest principal for Prairie Winds Elementary School. So Miss Coveney just is coming to us with multiple years of experience as an educator. Most recently, she is the assistant principal at Mammoth Heights Elementary School, which is in Douglas County School District. Brings extensive experience in multiple school settings and states with multiple and various leadership roles. So as you are all accustomed to, we had a very robust interview process. We had several highly qualified candidates. We worked closely with our staff as well as parents, and we're in the position at this point in time to announce and introduce Ms. Coveney to you. So welcome, and would you like to say a few words and allow the board to greet you as well?
I just want to share just a quick story, a little bit of a movie script. Dr. Summers called me on Saturday to offer the position as I was walking into Magic Kingdom at Disney World with my mom. So a fantastic story, and I'm just so excited to be here and look forward to joining the district.
Yeah, I couldn't resist the opportunity to allow her to celebrate a job offer as she was at Disney World. So with that, any questions or comments from the board?
Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
All 5 of my kids attended Prairie Winds, and we just live a short distance. It is an incredible elementary school, and I've read a little bit about you, so no doubt you'll continue to keep Prairie Winds on the great path that we're on.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Welcome, Mrs. Coveney.
Thank you, guys.
Prairie Winds is, there's no building that you can go wrong with in our school district, but there's something also special about Prairie Winds, and I know that you'll be very thrilled in that building. And you've got some big shoes to fill, and no doubt you will fill them well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm remiss because there was one other update I did not include in the update, nor in the message. I just wanted to shout out, and I think it's pretty evident from the artwork that's hanging on our walls, that we are currently hosting the Air Academy Federal Credit Union Art Awards and display. So that award ceremony, I believe, is scheduled for Tuesday, April 25th here in the Learning Center. But we just want to give a big shout out to all of our students as artists, as well as our art teachers across the district who help facilitate not only great art education throughout the year, but hang all the art pieces, as you can see posted here. So we're always excited to have things on the wall, especially things that reflect excellence from our students and all the great work that's in front of you. So I don't know that that's stating the obvious, other than it's on the walls for us to enjoy. So if you haven't had a chance already, and we encourage anyone in the community to do so, please come through our building during our business hours, and we're happy to accommodate those visits. And I believe with that, that may conclude everything, unless, again, there's any other questions or statements from the board.
Thank you, Dr. Summers. Board? Any questions, comments? Well, thank you, Dr. Summers. I'm looking forward to that Snyder Electric update to get a more detailed analysis on the progress and the savings. And also, I want to do a shout out to Ms. Phillips, who did an amazing job in the early AM when Fox 21 was visiting our schools, and your interview was quite stellar, and you shined a very wonderful light on D38 and the state of education in Colorado. So thank you.
Well said.
All right, well, with that, we will move on to D, and we will move on to D1, Priority 1, Safe, Healthy, and Welcoming School Update. Our Executive Director of Student Services, Rick Frampton, and Chief of Security, Dennis Coates, will be providing us with an update on Priority 1.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Director Norris, very nice to meet you and welcome. We're looking forward to working with you closely as we move forward. So real fast this evening, our purpose tonight is to reiterate our efforts and initiatives in the pursuit of safe, healthy, and welcoming schools. One thing that's really important for us to note is we're not going to dive into any specific details of our security protocols, as we want to keep those details as confidential as possible. And we're going to also spend some time sharing some current data and additional context related to our priority. As you've already seen this evening, you can see that the safe and healthy schools is one of our priorities across the continuum, and that's our focus for this evening. I'm going to first point out that we have a list of a variety of board policies that are already in place specific to this topic. At risk of boring everybody, I don't think we'll go into detail, but I wanted you to at least have all of these policies in front of you so you can reference them. If you have any questions, I'm here and happy to answer any of those questions for you. We here in Lewis Palmer have what we consider a comprehensive approach to safety and security. So we're not just looking at a secure building. We're not just looking at additional staff. We're looking at all of those things together. It's a physical infrastructure. It's having armed district and campus security. We work very closely with law enforcement and community partnerships. We have a robust threat assessment and emergency preparedness plan. And we do lots of things on a day-to-day basis with individual students to create a safe and healthy school environment.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, sir. Obviously, the events that have happened in the U.S. in the last month or so has brought a lot of attention to school security. And with the help of Dr. Summers and Mr. Belcher, we've received a lot of emails from parents asking about, our district, what we're doing, and all those things. And we've replied to every one of them. And if people do have questions, I'm glad to share as much as I can with them to give them some assurance that I know a lot of people think about security just in the last couple of weeks, but I can promise you that's something that I've thought about and some things that we're going to talk about today. Over the last couple of years, I came to you in a meeting a couple of years ago, and I told you that there were 4 things that I really wanted to concentrate on. And those are the 4 that are here on the board. To get that, the vestibules in our 3 elementary schools that didn't have them, I thought was a priority, and you made that come true. You along with Dr. Summers and the executive team. So as you can tell, one of the issues that comes up a lot and a lot of parents talk about is, I'll give you an example, I believe, and I might be a couple off, but for instance, Palmer Ridge has 37 doors. So obviously you can't put all your eggs in one basket, and sometimes, there can be inconvenience to security, but we've really focused in on, having all that traffic going through one door so that we can put our resources on making sure that the people coming in and out of there are safe. We've enhanced our video, the cameras. We probably have well over 300 cameras in the district, and we try to monitor them. Obviously, we can't have somebody watching all of them all day long, but we do monitor them. We use them for our athletic events, any events that are in the school. And then there's a lot of, sometimes we don't realize how big our properties are. When you look at Lewis Palmer and you've got, from the practice fields all the way down to the baseball field and Palmer Ridge all the way out to our athletic turf, there's a lot of areas for us to keep an eye on. So we've enhanced that. We've enhanced our radio coverage, and with a grant that we got, we're working on an interoperability plan with our first responders, and we'll be the first school district in El Paso County that actually will be able to communicate with first responders on our radios. So that instead of calling 911 and information being, people with eyes on, having to relay information to secretaries or whoever it may be trying to talk with 911, we're going to be up and running with the first school in El Paso County that'll actually be able to talk to, whether it be police, fire, ambulance, whoever it is, that we'll have direct communication with them even before they get on our grounds. The 3M or ballistic film seems to be a big question that a lot of parents have been asking, and we do have a lot of it in our district. It's not always cheap, but we've used that resource and the resources we've been given, and we've tried to pick our most strategic places in the district to put them, and we have a lot of it. Obviously, it has to be coordinated because sometimes we might need help coming in, so we can't put it everywhere, because the last thing I want to do is slow down police or law enforcement that are trying to get into our buildings to help. So working with law enforcement, we have that at all of our schools to some degree, and we'll continue adding to that as we go along. My team, and I don't want to give specifics. We do have armed security in the district. All of them, they're with my. When I went through the process and the interviewing process and all that, and I was gifted the opportunity to build that team, to me, who they are was the important part. And we've really tried to build, and you're going to get to see one of my team members who's a great guy and a great person. And my team, I feel, I hope that we never have to use anything that's on our hip. But we do interact with almost every kid that walks into that school every day, and giving them a resource to come and talk to. And, I think a lot of what I would want to shift in parents is it's not just, standing there looking for the bad guy, like what you might see in a movie. I think my team is being around, talking to students, and we're actually at the point now where I'm confident that if students have a concern, they'll come and tell us, and we can act on that. And we do move throughout the district. They're not sitting in one place all the time. As far as security goes, that would be about the worst plan you could have. Is we even park differently, so we don't want to give that perception. And Mr. Frampton's going to key up a couple things about. They're part of my team that I'm really proud of, and you'll see some things that they've been doing recently.
Of Lewis Palmer High School this morning, and I am here with John Hudson, who I think your official title is the head of security here at the high school, right?
Yes.
John, tell us a little bit about your background, because you have an extensive history in law enforcement.
I do. I started my law enforcement career in Los Angeles County in 1994. Did 15 years there, lateral to the Denver Police Department when we moved out here to Colorado. And I ended my career in the town of Monument as the police commander.
Awesome. And so in retirement now, you've been doing this for a year and a half, and your kids have gone through the school system here in District 38, so you have a real close tie to the school.
Absolutely. I knew that the day that I pulled the plug and decided to retire from law enforcement, there was one job that I was going to do, and it was going to be security at Lewis Palmer, District 38. Both of my kids went through. They went to Ray E. Kilmer. They went to Lewis Palmer Middle School, and both of them graduated here from Lewis Palmer High School. So it was a no-brainer. When it was time to stop being a police officer, this was where I was going to work.
And in just the few minutes that we've had together, I can tell that you're a fun guy. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of security protocols at every school across the state of Colorado and across the nation. So I want to focus on right now, like the biggest part of your job, I think, or maybe the most important, is not just keeping the kids safe, but it's relationship that you have with the kids.
Absolutely. The biggest thing for the entire security team is relationships. Once you can establish those relationships with the kids, they then feel comfortable coming to you and talking about things that they saw or things that they heard. You know, obviously Safe to Tell is huge throughout the entire state of Colorado, but they do feel comfortable coming to the security team because of the relationships that we built with them.
What's the most fun thing that you have experienced in your year and a half as the director of security here?
It seems like every single day I go home and my right hand is bright red from the amount of high fives I get from the kids. Not only walking through the halls, but when they check in. I mean, every day I come to work, I love my job. I love these kids. I have two of my own. When I took this job, I inherited and adopted another 1,100 students here. So I love every day that I interact with these kids.
And I love it. I could just see the smile in your eyes and the excitement. It has been a pleasure to meet you this morning, my friend. Thank you for everything that you and the team do on a daily basis. We appreciate it. That's John. This is the front of Lewis Palmer High School.
A story that is positively Colorado. A school resource officer at Lewis Palmer High School in Monument is getting a lot of attention for his dance moves. And as you're about to see, it's helping him create relationships that go beyond just a hello in the hallways. El Paso County Deputy Chad Wheat knows it takes more than a few cool dance moves to connect with students, but so far it's paying off.
7-8. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Are you sure?
Especially with the varsity pom squad at Lewis Palmer High School.
It really shows his true character and what he really does for the school.
He's honestly just one of another friend at school. He makes you feel so seen and appreciated, and we just adore him.
To have an adult that's someone to be trusted, an adult that you feel safe going to, safety doesn't just mean physical protection, it also means emotional protection, and trusting that he could walk in and we could tell him anything that's on our hearts, anything that's heavy for us, to trust that he would be someone who would listen and who would understand and who would see us for where we are at. That is something that is so, so special and valuable.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Their connections, Wheat says he's been working on since he became the school resource officer at the end of 2020.
By being at all the extra, so I'm always just trying to get involved with the students.
Wheat says a few months after he started, he was asked to give a safety talk to the school and had a little fun with it.
I led a roller coaster here at that point in time, and the kids, I mean, it was one of the most exhilarating times of my career, the support I felt from the student body at that point in time.
His latest ask, to perform with the Pom Squad dance team.
Have you seen that quote that's if you stumble, make it part of the dance? That's exactly what you did. It's Chad.
Oh, yeah. Always laughing.
Were you scared?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was nervous. There's no doubt. There was no doubt. I just didn't want to mess it up because I know they talked a little bit we might want to put this on TikTok. They might share it with their friends. And you know how social media, it takes one video and you're famous.
He may not be famous, but the video has had more than 18,000 likes and nearly 1,000 shares on the Sheriff's Office Facebook page. A big show of support for a deputy trying to find ways to support his students best.
You see him roaming in the halls, he'll say hi to you and he'll give you a fist bump, and it really just makes me feel so happy just seeing him here, and he makes me feel so protected, and he just truly makes everyone's day better.
So for the last couple of years, you can see that they were added to the team, and it's a big part of who they are, and I hope I saw a lot of smiles from the board as we went through that. So that's mine, and I've been working on Mr. Hudson for years, and I continue to people that I respect and think that they would be wonderful in our capacity. I'm always looking to add people like Deputy Wheaton, Mr. Hudson to our team. So moving on with that, we work with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, Monument PD, Palmer Lake PD, and Woodmore Public Safety helps us driving through nighttime while keeping an eye on our schools, and they also help us with traffic control in the district. As the area grows, obviously that brings about some increased traffic. As Dr. Summers mentioned earlier tonight, we're gonna keep trying to improve that, and he talked about the safety task force and school safety and infrastructure and that type thing will be a piece of that too. And we've also increased our participation in the Tri-Lakes Social Emotional Wellness Coalition. One of the questions that I've gotten from a lot of parents, I thought tonight would be a good time to just ask, well, what do you do, when you have concerns or when somebody's on social media or a friend comes to the school and says they're worried about somebody, and I do a lot with the threat assessments, and we've increased that training. And actually, I think Mr. Frampton's going to be talking about a special guest that we're going to have come and talk to our district-wide admin team in the end of May. But we conduct assessments with students. We look into some of their digital history. We talk to their parents. We talk to their classmates. We talk to their teachers, and we try to get. And we're not doing it for a disciplinary reason. We're doing it to try to understand what we can do if they're headed down a path of destruction. What we can try to do to intervene to help them to get on. To make better choices and to feel better about themselves and being at school. So when needed, we have a wide variety of people, and I'm excited about I've been to the training that's coming here to the school a couple times, but I'm excited about what we're going to be able to have our district admin team do here at the end of May. We use the standard response protocol. A lot of parents have asked about that. You can search that on the internet. What the SRP or standard response protocol is what we use here, along with all the other schools in the state of Colorado and across the country. We do drills, and we've tried to, there's a fine line between doing too many drills and causing trauma and not doing enough drills to be prepared, and we're finding that sweet spot, so to speak. We did a drill at Bear Creek today, and the only problem we had, but it was important that we did it, is we found a couple of doors that the locks were broken. They didn't work anymore, and obviously those are important, and who knows how long it would have taken us to find that had we not been doing drills. And we work with our staff, we work with our students, and we're going to continue to try to find better ways to get them involved in that. Safe to tell numbers, just to give you a perspective, these are the last 3 years. So. And there's a wide variety of topics that may be included in those, but you can see there's a little bit of a decline in those, and obviously the COVID year is a little bit different, but nothing that would stick out to me. I know Mr. Clausen always asks me this question each year: is there something that alarms you or alerts you about these? It's right in line, and I'm excited that I personally want to believe that the reason that they're going down is because we have people in the school and they don't have to feel like they have to anonymously report, that there's somebody they can go talk to. That's what I believe is part of that, and we'll continue to work on that.
And to point out, the Monument Academy bump is in line with when they opened their high school, so that would be expected as well.
And the last statistics that we talk about are gaggle, and that's our kind of filter on our school site that kind of flags important words, gun, knives, bombs, those type of words. And this is the gaggle numbers that we've had this year. I do want to, and I'll give you a chance to look at those numbers, but I do want you to know that the suicide numbers are probably, just to give you some context, is if they were doing a class report or a poem for a class or had to put in the suicide hotline, obviously that would flag. So, so just a little bit of perception about what that is. Go ahead, Rick. I think that's. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that that's a percentage of those emails that had the word suicide in it or those things has to do with school reports or projects that they're working on.
Let's take a look at some discipline data for the 22-23 school year. Every year for the last few years that I've done this job, I've had the opportunity to sit down and share our discipline data with you. And here are the figures for this year. In comparison, last year, at the end of February, I did a presentation to you all in at the March board meeting. So the data from the end of February last year, we had a total of 80 students suspended and 91 days of suspension. So you can see that we're about a month, maybe even a month and a half further along, and we've had fewer disciplinary infractions this year than we did last year.
Mr. Frampton, real quick, so back to that slide. So the number of suspensions versus number of student suspensions, is that year comparing 2 different years?
No, the first column, number of students, is the actual number of kids who have received a suspension from school. And the second column is the number of suspensions that have occurred. So some students may have received more than 1 suspension.
Gotcha.
That's why the left is smaller than the right in some cases. One thing that we've implemented, this is the second year, is we have a Vape Educate program. We've had 57 students access this program this year. One of the things that we've done to reduce the amount of suspensions and the length of suspension is if a student is caught with possession of a vape pen, we give them the opportunity to take a class in lieu of suspension, or in some cases shortening suspension. So we'll give students an opportunity to reduce their suspension by taking some classes and getting some education around the harms of the vape products that we see are pretty pervasive in our society today. And the expulsion piece, we've had 4 expulsions this year. We haven't gone to a single hearing, and all 4 of our expulsions have elected to defer their expulsion, which means we're able to return the student back to school sooner than what the 12-month law would require. When a student is expelled, they're typically expelled for 12 months. We are able to bring them back under what we call a deferred agreement, which enables us to put some constraints and some expectations for the student that's specific to the incident that led to an expulsion. For example, we will do drug testing for a student who might have a drug infraction, and it gives us opportunities to work closely with the student, do check-ins with adults, do check-ins with counselors, with really the intent to return kids back into the classroom and make sure that we put the necessary supports in place so they can be successful. One thing we're adding to this year's presentation is here's a list of our mental health providers across the district, and it's sorted out by the FTE, and you can get a sense on what kind of support we have for mental health across each of our buildings.
Question.
Yes.
Of those listed, and I don't know if you can answer this right now, which of those are supported by the school counselor core grant? Is that the title of it? I'm trying to recall.
It is, and I'll check to confirm, but I believe the answer is 3, one in each of our secondary buildings. So last year we had 4 counselors at each high school, and we had 2 at the middle school, and we were able to increase those by 1 in each of our secondary buildings.
And if I recall, that grant continues for 2 more years or 1 more year?
Actually, I believe it's 3.
Oh, good. Okay.
And just one additional clarifying note is that 2 of those positions are fully grant funded. One of those positions, we did allocate a portion of general fund to make it a full-time or 3 different counselors. We thought that was important to the model itself. So it's a small number, but
Okay.
just a quick
thank you.
detail to it.
Mr. Schwartz?
Thank you. Just taking a quick glance at the numbers, it looks like there's a bit of a correlation on a student to counselor ratio.
Yeah, I mean, the intent is you will definitely notice that our larger schools have more and our secondary schools have more. The job for counselor at our high schools is slightly different than in our K through 8 levels. And there is definitely a correlation on student count. We're trying really hard to get a similar student to mental health provider ratio. One thing you'll note is that we don't have an even distribution across the 3 areas of expertise, primarily because we're having difficult times finding people with the different counselors are really tricky to find at the elementary level. As you can see, we have 3 buildings without a counselor, so we're backfilling that with social workers and psychologists. Oftentimes when we post a position, we'll post for a counselor, and if we don't get someone right away, we'll change that posting to a mental health provider, opening the door for any qualified person who can work well with the kids.
Is there a credible national best practice number or ratio as you migrate through primary to middle to secondary?
Yeah, each of these organizations have a professional organization that would give us those numbers, and I did not anticipate that question, so I don't have that.
Well, my fault for not bringing it over the weekend, so I'll take accountability. But secondly is, I guess my question is, where are we in comparison to a credible best practice versus one that we just find on Google?
I would like to look into that further before I answer that question.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Sorry.
Good. Yeah, one thing that's important to note, and is really something I want to emphasize, is that creating a safe and healthy school environment isn't the responsibility of our mental health staff in isolation. It's the responsibility of all of our staff. All of our staff need to work very closely with the kids, developing those relationships, whether it be what we saw with our security staff and SROs, custodial staff, licensed staff, our mental health staff. And it's really important for us to continue to help train our teachers, which we do through responsive classroom and capturing kids' hearts. So they're sensitive to students' needs, they're sensitive to concerns around mental health that students might bring into the classroom, so we can support kids all day, every day throughout the school environment. That's important. I think a few of you have heard me use this analogy. Back when I was in school, we had a class called computers. And the only time I had a chance to sit behind a keyboard and a screen was during computer class. And the rest of my day was non-computer oriented. That probably dates me a touch, unlike my gray hair. I feel today there is no such thing as a computer class, because computers, I don't even know, does anybody even use that term anymore? But technology is so pervasive throughout our day. It's such a component of our education. I believe mental health needs to be the same way. I don't think mental health is a standalone component in which students can go to a counselor, can go to a mental health provider, and receive that support through that person. I think it needs to be pervasive. It needs to be pervasive across all of our courses with all of our professionals, which means we need to provide them the necessary training and comfort level in order to be able to meet those needs for all the students in their classrooms. So that's what we mean by cultivating a safe and healthy school environment, is we want to make it pervasive across every student's day, every day. We have an ongoing commitment to non-discrimination. We're promoting environments that combat bullying and promote kindness and respect for all. We're being very intentional about inserting these components into our school day for our kids, and of course we do that as it's developmentally appropriate, so it looks very different in our elementary schools versus our high school. In the fall, we provided our students the opportunity to take a student survey. You may have seen that we're going to be doing that again starting on Monday of next week, the 24th. We're going to open up our survey that's going to be open until May 5th, so we're going to have an opportunity to compare the results that we received in the fall with how we're doing today to see if we've made some headway and students are reporting improvement across a variety of different areas in our survey. We pulled out a couple questions for you to reference this evening from our fall survey, where you can see that 76% of our students agree that if they had a serious problem, they know an adult in the school to whom they can talk to or go for help. 83% of the students report that their teachers often or always care about them as a person, and 70% of our students responded often or always that they feel part of my school community. Yes, Ron?
2 quick ones.
Yeah.
Does this include Monument Academy Secondary?
It does not.
Okay.
We just provided this to our 8.
What was the response ratio?
We had very good response. We had over 3,400 students respond to this survey.
So very statistically significant then.
Very much so.
Okay.
Very much so. I'm proud of these statistics. I think if we were to compare ourselves with other schools, we can feel really proud of the fact that we have such good response rates. And as the director of student services, I'm worried. I'm worried about the other 30% who aren't feeling like they're part of our community. I'm worried about the 17% who aren't reporting that a teacher cares about them as a person. And I'm worried about the 24% who don't feel comfortable or know an adult in the school who can support them. So our work continues. It's important. We need to continue to get better at this. We need to continue to focus on this.
I have a question also.
Yep, and I just skipped to the elementary with the same questions.
If a student and their family or a parent wants to opt out of these surveys, do they have that option, and about how many do, if we do?
They do. We have an opt-out form on our website. It's currently available for parents, and they can opt out anytime this week. And in the fall, we did have some families opt out, but it was a very small number.
Okay. And then we have that same form if a family wants to opt out of participating in Gaggle as well, if I recall.
I can't speak to that. Do you know, Dennis?
I'm not 100% sure, and I would confirm with Chris, but I do not believe that's correct.
I just recall when we were parents, we had the opportunity to, that same form, that opt-out form. So I was curious about Gaggle.
Yeah, we'll have to look into
Okay.
Ms. Upchurch, can I ask you to restate that? To opt out of Gaggle?
If a student doesn't want to, if a family or a parent doesn't want to use our, I understand Gaggle just applies to our school devices. So if, say, a parent doesn't want their student on a school device, they can
Correct. That
opt
part,
out.
yes. Yes.
But I will stress that all of our district-operated devices do utilize that platform in order to ensure consistency and a widespread net that all district devices do carry with them.
Sure.
So that part, I think that is the accurate answer. There's not really an opt-out for being monitored for the use of our district devices on the district network.
And in front of you is the elementary statistics on the same questions. Are there any questions regarding our student survey? Here's our commitment. To be safe, all of our students need to be prioritized, our schools revered, and our educators respected. School safety has to be seen as a product of a comprehensive learning environment and strong partnerships with families and other community-wide resources. And this is an ongoing and active commitment to elevating every student every day. Thank you for your time.
Can I actually offer one more clarifier? And Ms. Wetstein, can you just come up? Because I want to make sure I'm getting this accurate. The way Gaggle works is a function of anytime a student is registered into their Google domain. So anytime they're using district email provided access, or a Google Doc or a Google Slide. Anything via Google is actively monitored by Gaggle as a function of the way that system is designed. Am I getting that correct?
That is my understanding, and that is whether they are on a district-owned device or a personal device. If they are logged in under their district Google account, then it is monitoring for safety.
Is there additional question on that? I just want to be clear that
No,
okay.
I just wanted clarification.
And if we need a deep dive into Gaggle, Chris Mack is by far our expert in that area. We could arrange an opportunity to make sure that we have an opportunity to do that if that's something that you all desire.
Okay.
I know it's been a while, but yeah, we'd be happy to accommodate that. Thanks.
I actually
Amber.
have one more question for Mr. Coates. Back to slide, I think it was number 5, where you talked about, or your last bullet was future investments. My question is, number 1, are those budgeted for? Because sadly, this is probably the most important thing that we do in this era that we live in. And so I want to ensure that we're doing everything that's within our power on the prevention side.
If I can weigh in there, we intend on, as part of our draft budget proposal and ultimately what's presented for final approval in June, to call out some of those specifics in terms of what our anticipated investment would be. We envision this being part of a multi-year plan, so we can certainly go into some more detail and share with you what specific sites we have in mind. But what I will reiterate with that is that we're not in a position where we can do a full wide-scale implementation across all sites all at once. So likely we're talking about at least a 2 to 3 year plan to continue to achieve the upgrades that are necessary. And as you would expect, every year there's going to be needs that we need to make sure that we're building into the budget as part of that priority.
Yeah, those are constantly reevaluated. As our communities grow, such as, Lewis Palmer Elementary, that development just west of the school changes the dynamics there of when classes are outside. And so everything's always being, and I'll make sure that you're aware of what I believe the top priorities are.
Thank you.
One prom down, 1 to go. That's always good to get through prom weekends with everybody getting home safe.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Norris? Mr. Clausen?
No questions. Great presentation, gentlemen. Thank you. Actually, I do have one question. So, Dennis, when are we going to see you in one of those dance videos?
I wouldn't put you through that. So.
Going to be part of his performance plan. Literally a performance.
Nobody wants to see that.
Mr. Schwartz? Any more?
No, thank you.
Ms. Phillips?
No comments. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We will move on to item D2, consider approve the 2023-2024 pay schedules, which is in alignment with priority 3 and 5. Chief Business Officer Brett Ridgway will be presenting a final schedule for the 2023-24 school year for approval of us as the board. We saw this at our work session, and so this is, as I believe, this is really good high-level information.
Ms. Upchurch?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
to approve the 2023-2024 Lewis Palmer School District 38 pay schedule as presented.
A second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. I do want to, there is some important information that I think is, maybe we can skip to some of, after we take our vote. It was information you shared at our District Accountability Committee meeting that I think is important. But Ms. Wood, would you take the roll call?
Aye.
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 Aye. Mr. Ridgway, on your slides, page 2 through 5 in particular, were very valuable information that you shared at the district parent.
PCAC.
PCAC. Yes, formerly known as DAC.
Right.
And if we can go through that just very quickly.
I would like to make one caveat too on the pay schedules. It's April 17th, and the School Finance Act still has not been introduced at the state legislature.
Right.
So we've been hearing some information late last week and such that is telling us that there could be some good chance that the revenue assumption that we've built in will end up being conservative, and it will be a better result than that. I think if it has a certain level of materiality above and beyond the 8% revenue growth that we've included so far, we may have opportunity to look at pay schedules again. And so just wanted to seed that thought, for the rest of this budget process.
Would we have to amend this motion at that time?
We'd probably present you a different set of pay schedules
okay.
eventually, if that were to play out, yes.
Fair enough. It's really good.
So yes, the presentation that I include here, I don't know if you've noticed so far, but I'm just building this as we go. Every meeting, there's more slides added to it, but the slides we've already talked about are still in here. So this in this last iteration, I've put some slides towards the front to provide some perspective and some summary overview as to this year's budget process and what we're trying to achieve here. And when I presented this to the PCAC last week, I also included these slides that I call big picture orientation, which I find useful for folks that aren't engaged in this at a consistent day-to-day, month-to-month even type of frequency, just to level set on what we're talking about in terms of the size of the business that we have here at District 38. And so these high-level points here do that with the notation that we are processing about $80 million through the district accounts each year, 3,000 individual general ledger accounts and 250,000 transactions that run through those general ledger accounts, 18 funds including 47 active grants. Half of those grants are funded in advance, and half of those grants are funded in arrears. So each of those individual grants are like an individual fund that we have to manage specifically. The number of employees that we have for D38 operated schools. In our last payroll here in March, we paid 936 people. 827 of them are what I would call regular employees, meaning they're both full-time and part-time employees that are here on a specific schedule. The difference between those two are things that are seasonal or temporary, like substitutes and such. A single payroll run has 13,280 pieces of information that we run through it. And our bank accounts, we have 19 bank accounts at 7 different entities to manage our cash.
Quick point of clarification. Of that 80 million, how much of that goes to our district-operated expenses versus how much transfers over to Monument Academy, for example?
So Monument Academy receives about $11 million of that each year.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All of this, hopefully you feel that since we've been making these presentations here these last few months, since I came on board, that we're trying to increase the level of fluency and familiarity with some of the important pieces of information, so in the end we can make informed decisions. Informed decisions are usually easy decisions, relatively speaking, compared to the uninformed decisions. A hard decision, I would say, probably lacks some type of clarity, some type of information that should provide clarity to it. The strategic process priorities the slide that I put in here. This is not the strategic plan. This is just from a budget business perspective. What was I hoping to accomplish this year? Number one was to establish this philosophy and this methodology really that connects the projected changes in School Finance Act revenue to general fund expenses. And so we've talked about in several different meetings about that 8% growth in revenue and how can that translate into a certain percentage growth in general fund expense, specifically in compensation. Number two, we wanted to involve and solicit input from the district staff and their delegates in the staff collaboration committee. So that has really gone well so far this year, and we have our next meeting for that on Wednesday night. We wanted to be innovative with ideas and processes that can facilitate changes that are greater than the norm. I'll probably tell you a little bit more about that here in a second. And just to improve overall precision in budgeting, so that we don't want to have what I see too often is fearful budgeting, and that's too many layers of conservative. If we're conservative on our student count, and then we're conservative in our per pupil revenue rate, and then we're conservative in our pay schedules, we end up with too many layers of conservatism in that, and so that makes the budget really not useful for us. So we got to be very careful about where we're saying here's where we're conservative, and everywhere else we're pursuing the best answer, because I believe the best answer is the best answer when it comes to budgeting. Because again, another statement I like to make is a budget is not meant to predict the future. It's a set of coordinated assumptions that allows us to measure how the future changes according to that. You've seen this one before, I won't go through that, but some high points on the general fund revenue. These are the ones you want me to keep going through? Yep. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the assumption right now is to increase per pupil revenue by 8% to $9,800 per student. Again, I'm believing that this will be higher. To what degree will it be higher is what we'll find out hopefully later this week. The funded student count projects a moderate increase overall, meaning through the entire district. That includes Monument Academy. Monument Academy is actually growing more than the operating schools are. The operating schools are having a slight contraction, and that's just a kind of a cyclical, seasonal thing about what's the size of a graduating class that you graduate out in 12th grade and what you're bringing on as you come into preschool and to kindergarten for the following year. Capital maintenance projects are slated to receive a funding at a pre-pandemic annual level. We've talked about that before with some of the conversations we've had relative to capital maintenance projects that we wanted to pursue back in January.
Mr. Schwartz?
I'm one bullet away from a question.
Okay.
One bullet away from the question, interest income. This is something that has been such an unusual event this year. I mean, we've had interest income for the first time in like 15 years in the district here. And so while we have experienced inflation and that has its impact on cost increases, it does give us some opportunity on the flip side as well, some small silver lining to that. Question, sir?
What does that number look like?
So I was going to highlight that, and I will highlight that when we get to the financial planning and analysis part of the update. But what I'll tell you kind of in summary level to that is, whereas last year we received $22,000 for the year in interest income, so far this year we received $147,000 of interest income. And that's just in the general fund. We have received additional funds. Last month alone across the district, we received $52,000 of interest income across all funds. And so that has been it's been so long, it's like, oh yeah, look, interest income, this is what happens. So we'll talk more about that.
Great.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Then translating again those revenue drivers into the high level expense priorities and drivers of the budget. The normal revenue rate increase that we talked about, again, that 8%, has that connection to what we would normally see as a gross pay rate increase. And what that connection is usually it's that number. In this case, it's 8%. It erodes slightly in applying it to gross pay because there are other things that are increasing as well. The para increase has its part of the pie. Other increases with insurance and other rates have that as well. So we typically see an erosion of about a quarter of that is what I've noted here. But in this iteration, in this budget, what we're trying to do is not only backfill that erosion, but also push ahead of that. And that's kind of getting back to that point I had about doing better than the norm. So finding some items that can produce efficiencies, that we can recognize funds that we can take from what may have been a volume type of oriented spend in the past, and converting that into a rate-oriented spend for pay schedules. And so that's what this first bullet point is to take that 8%, recognize that, know that it connects in terms of the revenue growth into gross pay, but do work to try and to recover that and get us beyond that this year specifically. On the benefits program, we'll talk about this more in a future topic, so I won't spend any time on that one here. The Longevity Loyalty Work Anniversary Bonus Program is establishing this year in 22-23 in what I'm calling a year zero implementation. I think we've talked a little bit about that as well, but that will continue then on going forward. And what's important about that is it responds to the number one request from the staff through the Staff Collaboration Committee and the survey that we did back in the winter. And then finally, the new hire and hard to fill bonus program that we established last year is continuing, going forward, dialing it back slightly and changing it again just slightly as well for the new hire payments, taking that down to $2,000 where it was $2,500, and then splitting that into 2 payments where it was a single payment. And then the final item here was something we'll talk about in the very next agenda item, so I won't spend too much time on that one either, but that is an important part of this year's budget assumption as well. Anything else in particular from that presentation you'd like me to go over?
Board members, Teresa, Mr. Norris, Mr. Clausen, Mr. Schwartz? Nope. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so moving on to our next agenda item is D3, consider and approve revisions to regulation GCBA-R, instructional staff contracts, compensation, and salary schedule. This is also in alignment with our priorities 3 and 5, and Ms. Amber Wetstein will be joining us for this discussion, as well as Mr. Brett Ridgway.
Ms. Upchurch?
Yes, sir.
May I please make a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, to approve the revisions to regulation document GCBA-R, instructional staff contracts, compensation, and salary schedules as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Questions, comments, thoughts, discussion? Ms. Wetstein, do you want to share why we're doing this, even though it's a regulation?
Yes, good evening. So typically, we would not ask the board to vote on a regulation. It would be more of an administrative policy. However, in this case, it fits very closely with the recommendation on pay schedules that we're proposing tonight. Most significantly, we are proposing a change to the number of years we would honor for out-of-district service. In our current regulation, the district will honor up to 9 years of service upon entry into the school district. And while we are not yet competitive with our neighboring districts, who many have moved to honoring up to 20 years, we are proposing that we gradually increase to 15 years so that we are able to better recruit high quality teachers and then also work to restore those years of service for our teachers who have been hired and not had those years honored in the past. That will be a gradual process in order to do that, and Brett can answer some of the questions regarding what that cost of this change might be.
I think we've had a chance to review this prior as well.
We did discuss it at the work session pretty extensively.
So if there's not any further questions or discussion, then Ms. Wood, would you take the call?
Mr. Clausen?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Ms. Phillips?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving right along, we will move to item D4, financial planning and analysis, which is in alignment with priority 5. Mr. Ridgway, you have a front row seat for a bit.
Thank you. I'm just getting comfortable. So this month's FP&A report is the same style that we in format that we've been talking about for a while. I would immediately draw our attention here to find interest income, and the way that we'd find interest income on this is looking for our general fund revenue source and program summary, which starts on page 25 of this document here. So if we click into that, we can go to page 25 and see here, when I zoom in, here in the upper left, you'll see this interest income line, and you see this $22,000 that we received all of last year, and the 147, really practically $148,000 worth of interest income we've received as of the end of March. You go back to our table of contents, and you can see that we have something here called a cash position summary here on page 62. And so I want to go and show you that page real quick. Again, it's another example of how much information I'd like to squeeze onto one single page. But we can zoom into this and see that what this does is list all of our individual bank accounts and the general ledger account that comes with that. And so we have the balances here. This is last year's actual balance. Zoom in some more. This is last year's ending balance, and this is our current balance in those accounts. And those accounts that have interest-bearing characteristics to them, we have the arrow that draws it across here and shows the interest income along with the average daily balance. When you are looking at earnings, it's not an end-of-month balance that you have to be aware of. It's what is the average daily balance, because interest is paid on a daily basis, and that's the only time that the only measure that really makes it make sense. So if you go across here, you can see the interest income that the individual accounts have been earning, and then what is the interest rate that is derived from that interest income and the average daily balance that is recognized for that account for that period. And then if you followed vertically down, you'd see that, again, the interest income earned for the month across the district, all funds, is this $52,000 number. And the reason that jumped up, of course, from these last recent months is because March is the month when we received our first property tax. And so our cash reserves are starting to replenish now through the course of the spring. Because we got to that low point that we talked about really for months on end, knowing that February is that low point that we had to be aware of. And so I will skip there back to the graphs that we have been talking about through this time that demonstrates this. And specifically, it's this second graph here on the graphical presentations on page 6 that shows kind of the cyclical nature of our cash position and our fund balance position, and we get to that February low point that we know that we have to manage through, and then we get the kick right away in March once those cash reserves start coming in, or those property tax deposits, I should say, start coming in. So again, the reason that we've had this level of cash on a beginning of year and end of year basis is to manage that cycle through this February trough, and now we'll start rebuilding that. And as much as interest income now is recovering, so we're starting to earn money much more on these reserves than we have in the past, which again is some silver lining to what we've seen with inflation here. Questions?
Is there anything in your report that we should be concerned about?
I don't believe so. I appreciate that question, that high-level question. But looking at this one page that I've mentioned before is the one page to take a look at in terms of the actual numbers showing the revenue and expense and the fund balance for each of the individual funds. I think what they show is that we are on good pace for this budget year, being 75% of the year completed through the end of March.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Schwartz.
Thanks. A couple questions on the interest back on page, I think 62, is that right? 62, yep. So the bottom right, you have the $52,000 figure.
Correct.
And then 5.11%. That can't be an aggregate number because it's the highest one in terms of interest rate return. What does that represent?
Yeah, that does not look like an accurate calculation there.
I think it's a wonderful number. Can we just get to it?
Yeah, because none of the numbers above here above are over 5%, so that there's something erroneous in that calculation. So thank you for
that. Was pure luck. I was more interested in trying to get to 5 points, but you anticipate around $200,000 or so at the end of the year in interest income. Is that right?
For the general fund, yes. Across the district right now, what we've earned so far this year is $360,000 across all funds. So we'll get well into the 400s by the end of the year.
Right. But so clearly the general fund is the biggest winner, so to speak. So my question is twofold. Any thoughts on how to use the money? Secondly, do you view it as reoccurring or single-use money?
Well, that second one is a really good question. Ordinarily you'd think of it as recurring money, but then when we went for 15 years without receiving interest income, then it became a one-time thing. So I think, yeah, to that point, I wouldn't necessarily want to budget that as a recurring level, especially at this level. Until unless we got through several cycles and saw that it was going to achieve some stability to the general fund or to any of the funds. But how do we use this? Before I answer that question here, I want to what I don't have really well labeled right here in this area of the sheet that I'm showing right now is that these are the individual fund numbers. So each of the individual funds that have cash and are receiving interest income. So that $360,000, to your point earlier, general fund is receiving the plurality of that money, but not the majority. Really, you can see that Fund 31, which is our bond redemption fund, is receiving a large part of this as well. We also have to be careful about something called arbitrage. And especially when it comes to that bond fund right there. And what arbitrage basically means is that we can't take money that we have borrowed and earn more investing that money than we've borrowed it for. That's a good thing to do when you're a private sector and investor. But when we're talking about the public sector and using public funds, we can't do that. We can't pursue an arbitrage strategy. So this $101,000 in the end may not be money that we'd be able to hold on to. We may have to refund that.
But the 147 is.
But the 147 is money that's coming to the general fund. And so as a setup to your question or an introduction to your question of what does that money go to, it goes into the general fund and is included with the other components of general fund revenue. I'm going to find the right slide that we were back here on this slide here earlier. And general fund revenue has these categories of local revenue, state revenue, and federal revenue, where we still have the vast majority of the revenue that comes in through the general fund is going to be School Finance Act related. And so interest income becomes one of the other, if you will, quote unquote, sources of revenue that has at this level now is having some impact, but relative to School Finance Act is still a fairly small number. So it helps us to balance things that we may not have foreseen in the original budget. So when we did the amended budget back in January, the fact that this has $200,000 worth of interest income is something that we were able to recognize when we did the amended budget in January, to help offset some other things that were also playing out in the general fund with revenue, other small adjustments to general fund revenue that we needed to make at that time. I don't have that report showing here in terms of comparing the amended budget to the original budget, but it was a part of that balancing exercise. Still didn't answer the question, right?
Not even close.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe next meeting.
Okay.
Good catch, Ron. I actually have a follow-up question to that, though.
Okay.
So we'll hopefully know this coming up few weeks of what we're looking at from the state. We've got this new interest income. For those that don't know, when is the exact date that we have to have our budget approved by? That's my first question.
June 30th.
June 30th. My second question is, when you're going through this and you're looking at this and calculating it, I want to make sure that when we're looking at our priorities, that we are prioritizing with the various teams of what does that look like with that additional interest income that we're collaborating.
Yes. I want to expand on that, but I think it's probably suffice to just say we fully intend to engage and involve opportunities for feedback in that process. We can certainly, as we have done so throughout the spring, bring those recommendations forward. And I think there's still more to be learned before we can really put specific figures and proposed plans together. So that will take some time. So I just appreciate that there's an opportunity to engage in that process and then bring what we learn back.
Because we, again, if I understand this correct, we don't know if this is not something we can count on as a reoccurring income.
My 2 cents, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like looking at one-time funding.
Okay.
I don't know that it would be wise for us to leverage that for recurring expenses. To the extent that some compensation opportunities are not recurring expenses, i.e. like a bonus, I think that might be one school of thought. But I certainly don't want to drive it one way or another. I think there's an opportunity for more dialogue and collaboration.
Fair enough.
Is a one-time fund a fair way to?
No, I think it's a really great point that we brought up tonight to think about this interest income. Yes, it's a great opportunity, but it is according to where we've been in these last many years, it's an anomaly now, and so to think about that, to be careful with that, and make sure that we don't bake it into a reoccurring expense proposal.
Becomes an opportunity versus an obligation.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Any other questions, thoughts, discussion? Okay. Anything else that we need to have our attention drawn to, Mr. Ridgway?
Not right now. Just when the School Finance Act drops later this week, and what that information tells us, I will try and send something out to you all to see how I'm able to interpret that for us.
Thank you so much. Okay, so moving on to D5, Employee Health Benefits Plan Selection for the 2023-24, which is also in alignment with 3 and 5. Mr. Ridgway, you're not up here with us for this one?
Letting Alicia go solo.
Welcome, Mrs. Welch. How are you?
I'm good. If I need him, I know where he's at.
I also want to remind everyone that Ms. Welch is our new human resource officer and director, I guess is the technical term, the real term, for D38. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here tonight. So I was going to go about this one way, and then about an hour ago I thought, I'm going to treat this much like we've treated the employees, which is trying to give them all the information they need to be able to make informed decisions about their benefits. So recently I learned about my role as the person who helps oversee the process of determining what the benefit program options are. And again, a lot of those were determined before I came in, but it was a good opportunity for me to learn and grow. I worked with both HR and finance, specifically Brett and Christina Kind and I worked together to just figure out where we were at as I was transitioning in. And then we set up the school presentations, and we had the first few school presentations, and then a couple days later we had a principal meeting. And at that principal meeting, a couple of the principals whose schools had had the presentations explained their concern for some of the changes to the benefit options and their concern that maybe their employees weren't understanding exactly what this all meant. So we changed directions a little and tried to make sure we were proactive with communicating to our staff and employee groups what exactly the plan options were. So again, that's why I decided to kind of change my presentation tonight. And I'm learning and growing here. I know eventually I should probably have something for you to visualize, but tonight you just get to look at me, so hopefully it goes okay. So first of all, we had the presentation at a couple schools. We met, we decided we needed to make some changes, and at that point, Brett and Mark and I met, and we decided we're going to have a letter communicating to all the employees what the changes are and why they matter. And then also we decided we'd come up with a frequently asked questions document and make it accessible to them. And then we also decided that we should have a recorded presentation that is available to all staff members as well as to all new employees that we hire, so that there's consistently the same presentation, high quality, that people can access so that they truly understand the benefit options. So as we move along, there are some significant changes to the benefit options this year. And the way we look at it is they're changes for the good. So we're excited about that, and it seems as though most people are seeing them that way.
So this is the communication that we sent out to the employee groups. It's really not very long. I don't want to take a lot of credit for it. I sat there as we asked Brett to kind of explain everything because he is really solid in his understanding of all this. So I'm learning and growing, but I felt that it'd be important for you to hear what our employees heard. So the strategies for the 23-24 benefit year was, again, a focus on some of the changes that were brought to the district with a focus on trying to create competitive and equitable opportunities for benefit packages. So the main thing that we did that is a significant change is we added a health savings account program. As we did a deeper dive into the HSA program and how it would look in D38, we were trying to help our employee groups understand that the HSA option is a competitive and desirable option for both new and existing staff. Importantly, an HSA allows staff to both invest their own money while also seeing the district make contributions as well. By being more involved in your own healthcare decisions, HSA programs are able to provide both lower pricing and saving investment opportunities to be financially prepared for future healthcare events. Another focus of this change is ensuring equitable district contributions for each benefit program by tier. In prior years, the various tiers between benefit programs were less than equitable, meaning the district invested more dollars into certain programs than others. This year, tiers have been leveled out to ensure that district does not have any skin in the game in terms of what program an employee selects. In the 22-23 year, the average district investment per employee was $525 per month. $525 per month if it was an employee only. Yes?
Based on a 9 or a 12-month year?
That is based on a 12-month year. With $565 per month for employees and children, and $575 a month for employees and a spouse, and $627 a month for employee and family. So different amounts were contributed based on the plan that was chosen. Accomplishing the goals of making the change this year allowed our district to build a foundation for future growth in the area of benefits, and we look forward to continuing to build upon the areas of success. The key points on the new arrival are, first of all, the benefits cost. Plans are moderately increasing in cost this year with the addition of an option to either stay the same or decrease the burden year over year with the addition of the HSA program. We asked for people to please plan to attend one of the upcoming benefit meetings in their school or district departments so that they could truly understand the benefit changes and be familiar with the benefit plan options for them to consider. The health savings account was the addition of the plan allows those who specifically selected the no-cost health plan to continue with a no-cost option. For those seeking a lower-cost plan, the addition of this plan ensured that you have the option to downsize if desired. The plan also allowed employees to contribute to and invest through the health savings account. Over the years, those funds could be utilized or can be utilized for medical expenses or saved to accumulate additional funds for retirement, at which withdrawals can occur similar to a 401k account. Health savings accounts are transportable from one employer to another and do not require your next employer to have an HSA program, but if they do, you can pick right up where you left off. One key caveat is employees may not participate in both flex spending and the HSA at the same time, and that's an IRS rule, it's not ours, and you may not enroll in a health savings account with funds still available in your flex account. So you have to use up the flex dollars if you want to go with an HSA account. And one additional change was this year we added the option for orthodontic coverage for employees who have children on the dental plans. So that is the big change that's been made this year, and I do think the process that we went through to ensure that everyone had the opportunity to engage in one of the benefits meetings, but also to have the FAQ document along with the recorded presentation for future use is helping to get people the answers they need to their questions. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. If I don't have the answers, I am happy to request that Brett come help.
Any other questions?
So HSA, correct me if I'm wrong, you could continue to roll it over where with the FSA, you use it or lose it within that calendar year, correct?
That is typically the way it works. I know there are some years when flex can be rolled over, but not typically.
Okay, perfect. Second thing, we're going to miss you at Prairie Winds, but we're glad to have you as part of the team, and you left Prairie Winds in really good shape. So thank you for everything you did there, Ms. Welch.
Thank you. It's actually kind of a sad but exciting transition, but I am so happy that we got an amazing principal to replace me. So happy for that.
Any other questions for discussion or thoughts for discussion?
Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz does.
Yes.
I do.
A question on one of the other documents, which shows the payments on the plans for the employees. Last year, we took a relatively healthy increase, 7.5%. I think it cost the district $180,000, and each employee probably had to share an equal percent increase on their premiums and maybe some of their deductibles. I'm trying to determine what those deltas are going forward. Was it flat? Was there an increase? What are the employees carrying? And
There will be a slight increase. I think Brett can speak to more of those specifics.
Yes, there is an increase. If someone stays exactly the same tier, the same plan year to year, there will be an increase on the employee portion as well, and as well as the employer portion. So it's kind of more of a shared responsibility in that change, in that like-to-like change, if you will, in this proposal versus what we did last year.
Right. So are we bearing an incremental cost as a district? And if so, what is it?
So the projection is that in 23-24, the district side cost will go up by about $86,000 for the year.
Okay, so that's got to be maybe 2-3%. 7.5 was 180, so I'm figuring.
Yeah.
3% probably. Okay, and what about the employees? Much less?
No, it's going to be actually a very similar number. It's just, like I said, it's more of a 50-50. Again, and that's assuming if they go like to like.
Yeah.
And that's what's unusual about this scenario, is that we are introducing this other plan, and so there should be I would expect there to be a lot more changes, because that free option, changing to a different plan, that's the most frequently selected.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so if we assumed, and I have actually, I think if I can pull this up.
While you're doing that, you probably have the answer in this. What are the participation ratios? Are we covering half our employees? Are they finding it someplace else?
So our total participants this year are 426. That's not lives. That's the number of employee participants. So that's probably, I guess that's a little less than half.
Yeah.
Are receiving that. And if you go down here, you'll see with each of the individual plans, so the PPO plan that we have for this year, for the 22-23 participants, we have 204 participating in that plan, but we have 158 participating in this specific bucket right here, which is the the free option, if you will, towards that. So
quarter.
And so what I did was model out, saying, well, let's take an estimate of what the changes will be, who will be changing plans, and so even if we only had about a third of the people that choose that PPO plan right here, if only a third of them moved to the HSA, and came down here where all of a sudden we had 60 people being covered in that bucket. And I made other variable assumptions as well, but mostly, the assumption is that people are staying in their buckets that they have. What that would result is on the average, the employee change would be negligible, but on a case-to-case basis, there would be change. If they're staying like to like.
Right. But it looks like if it's 2% on $500, it's $10. So it's not that significant.
In general, no, especially in relation to the amount of the gross pay changes that we're offering with the pay schedule this year.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions? How has the staff response been to this presentation and the new changes?
Well, I thought after the first few presentations that there were a lot of questions. People were unsure about what was covered, but then I went to a couple presentations after that, and it seemed like people were quite clear about what was being presented and just had a lot of questions about the option that would be best for them. We opened the enrollment window over the weekend, and we're getting a lot of questions, but we have some representatives with CEBT and with Rocky Mountain that have been wonderful with helping us not only complete the FAQ document, but answer some questions. And I think that people just trying to make informed decisions, and it's been going well. It's been going smoothly.
Alicia, would you say, from what you've heard, that the addition of the health savings account option has been received favorably?
I think it's been received favorably, yes. And I'm sorry, American Fidelity. We were with Rocky Mountain, so I am personally still.
Transitions.
I appreciate that you're going to continue to monitor that as well on the feedback. That's great.
Thank you.
That was an important part of the strategy on this. Was we didn't take anything away, right? The 3 plans that we had this year are still available next year. We're adding the 4th option, and that will inform us what do we do a year from now, because really CEBT as our plan provider prefers that we only have 3 options. So adding 4th option, seeing what plays, and then deciding where we want to go in the future.
That is and saving resources and dollars to the staff and to the district is also a benefit. So appreciate that. Anything else? Nope. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And with that, we will be moving on to D6. Everybody doing okay? Thumbs up? Yep. All right. So D6, which is first reading for revisions to policy AKF, which is in alignment with the priority 2. We've also talked about this in our work session. This is in regards to some graduation requirements that we are looking at for our high schools. And I personally appreciate the work that you guys put into this and looking at ways that we can put our students first and save resources for the district as well. So, Ms. Wetstein?
Good evening again. So, as you mentioned, Ms. Upchurch, we did discuss this at our recent work session. The change to IKF that I am proposing this evening as a first read is to eliminate the world language credit as a graduation requirement for every student, beginning with the class of 2025. So that's a clarification from our discussion during the work session. That credit would then be moved to an additional credit requirement in the elective category. And the rationale for this change is not all students need world language as part of their career plan. Right now we're requiring every student to obtain that credit. This would give students more options to be able to take career-focused and college-focused courses that meet their individual college and career goals. Another reason that we are proposing this change is that it is very difficult to find world language teachers, and we have had a challenge in staffing world language classes. While we will still plan to offer the classes for students who need those for entry into college and beyond, this would allow us to not require every student to take those courses. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or clarification? I just think want to make sure that it's important that we are understanding what it is we will be voting on at our next board meeting and the reasons why. And as I understand it from the work session, we will be continuing to ensure that our counselors are in contact and communication with any students that will still need these credits to get into college.
Correct. Our students all have an individualized career and academic plan, and our counselors work very closely with each individual student to ensure that they have the classes they need for their goals after high school.
If anybody has any feedback, please make sure that you share that with Dr. Summers or Ms. Wetstein prior to our May board meeting where we will be voting on this. Any other discussion on this at this time? All right, well, moving along then. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Wettstein. D7, consider and approve the superintendent's evaluation. Has everybody had a chance to look at the superintendent evaluation?
Ms. Upchurch,
Yes, sir.
may I please make a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to ratify the superintendent's final evaluation as prepared by the Board of Education and recommend for approval at this time.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Schwartz is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Wood?
Mr. Clausen?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Ms. Phillips?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch?
Aye. We will now move on to item D8, approval of consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at the consent agenda? And is there any questions, comments, or concerns?
Ms. Upchurch, may I make a motion
Yes, sir.
to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Is there a second?
Second.
I do have a discussion I want to bring up, and it's more of a question on E4, early literacy assessment tool. That's basically the vendor for our that's standard, right, for dibbles and such? Okay.
That's correct. I can save Ms. Wettstein the walk up to the to the table. So yes, that is our standard literacy assessment tool.
It's the only question I had. Anybody else? Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Wood?
Mr. Clausen?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Ms. Phillips?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch?
Aye. All right, we will now move on to F, board self-reflection and future agenda planning. Board, is there any reflection you'd like to share or future meeting items that you'd like to add to our upcoming work session or future agenda? Ms. Phillips, I'll start with you.
Yeah, there is the item of the June board meeting. I think there's been some communication about changing that date. And I guess I would let Dr. Summers take over from here or with Ms. Upchurch.
Yeah, so as I currently understand schedules, June 19th, there may be at least one or more conflicts. So the question will be, is the week preceding June 19th, anytime the week of June 12th, and perhaps proposing even June 12th as a rescheduled date, is that an option?
I'll start with Mr. Norris.
I'll be in town June 12th.
Mr. Clausen?
Unfortunately, I will not, and I will not be in a position to have cell phone coverage.
Is there another time that works?
So the 19th, and no doubt you've already addressed it, Dr. Summers, but is there any way that we could appear telephonically or via Zoom, or is one board member just unavailable?
I don't know that I can speak to all that specific. I just don't know that it's a tough time of the year, month. So I think at least one will be unavailable at that time. And we had initially also thrown out the possibility of June 20th, but that may not work. I think June 26th was another option. So we're kind of doing the best we can to work as adaptively as we can. I think that's the appropriate term. So
In addition to June 19th being my birthday, it's also, I believe, now a federal holiday with Juneteenth.
So that is something that we are discussing. It is not currently something that is listed as an observed holiday. However, that is an opportunity for us to visit that. But I believe, and not to discredit or discount that being a holiday, I don't know that that in and of itself is the issue as much as just availability and trying to get everybody to be as available as possible.
As I understood it, there are 2 board members not available on the 19th. That's how the discussion began.
I would be available on the 26th.
Mr. Norris, you're not available on the 26th.
Via telephonically, I can be.
Mr. Schwartz? Ms. Phillips?
For the 26th?
Yeah.
I'm available.
So if we have all four of us available and Mr. Norris available via telephonic, we could look at the 26th.
So, Ms. Upchurch, I will just give you a heads up.
Yes, sir.
That may be a day that I am also out. So,
Okay.
but I believe I may be able to join telephonically. So, but I also have a great team that may also be. I don't know. We'll make it work if that's what works for the board.
Well, let's do this. I'm going to make this recommendation. June is still another month out. So within the next week, if folks can look at their calendar and we be prepared for the May work session to nail down, possibly on a Tuesday, a date in June for the board to meet. Does that work with my fellow board members? Does that work for you, Ms. Phillips? All right, so we will come together at the May work session, and then we will solidify the June date, and that May work session is May the 2nd, Tuesday, May the 2nd at 8 a.m. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Ms. Phillips. Mr. Norris, do you have any board reflections or items for the next agenda?
None at this time.
Mr. Clausen.
In way of a reflection, once again, I want to thank Dr. Summers. It was a privilege to go through your review. As always, Dr. Summer received great marks, and we're just very fortunate to have you on board.
Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz?
No, thank you.
I do not have any board reflection other than I am confident that we as a team, thank you all for tonight's meeting. As I fuggle through a little bit of it, but I appreciate everything that each and every one of you and all of us bring to this table, and I truly, truly believe with that teamwork, and each of us with our different times and treasures and talents, that's how we make a strong team as leaders, and I think we're all leaders on this board. And I look forward to the work that we're going to be doing. And with that, Dr. Summers, do you have any more reflections?
I think you all did a great job tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, then with that,